Okay. Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this international reading. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are. And if you've watched The Truman Show, he says good night at the end of that too. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Heidi Kasa, and I'm celebrating the launch of my chapbook out now from Digging Press called The Beginners, which won their 2023 contest. Working with Digging Press has been wonderful. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Jesse Alvarez for choosing my manuscript and guiding me through this process because it's been wonderful. And Digging Press, a little bit about Digging Press. They're an independent publisher that fosters experimentation and cultural inclusion in literature and visual arts. They believe diversity of voices and eclecticism are essential components of a vibrant creative landscape, and they provide a platform for such works of literature and art to thrive. I'll say a bit more about Digging Press later, but first, I'd like to. Oh, sorry. Oh, Dad, can you mute, please? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. I'd like to introduce the reader to kick this whole thing off, David Gaffney. David Gaffney lives in Manchester. He is the author of three novels, six short story collections, and two graphic novels with Dan Barry. His short story collection, Concrete Fields, from Salt Publishing in 2023, was longlisted for the Edge Hill Short Story Prize. His collection, Whale, was published by Osmosis in 2024, and his latest collection of experimental prose, Lakes of Titan, is out now on Above Ground Press. He is Senior Manager for Literature at Arts Council England. So I must say, I've read all the places I've ever lived recently, and I love its blurring of genres. There's murder, mystery, thriller, true crime, and time travel in there, and I think it's tied together meaningfully at the end. So thank you for that book, and welcome, David.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks, Heidi, for inviting me along to read. And you must all get Heidi's book because it's brilliant. I had an early peek at it and wrote a little sentence or two for the cover, I think. So I'm going to read just for 5 or 8 minutes, just from various bits and bobs. I've got a book out now with this is what it looks like. It's a pamphlet, really. It's not really a book, which is on Above Ground Press, and they're in Ottawa. So, which if most of you are in the States or Canada, you can order that one if you're interested. But I'm going to read a couple from, I'm mainly known for writing flash fiction. So a couple of collections of mine, Sawn Off Tales and More Sawn Off Tales. So I'll read a couple from that first, and then I'll read some of the newer ones. This is called Everything's West of Something. Here, catch, I said, and time slowed down as the vase arced through the air. You can discover everything about your girlfriend by tossing a breakable object towards her. Is she poised, confident in her judgments? Does she seem willing to take responsibility for someone else's actions? Is she comfortable with spontaneity? What is her attitude to risk, debt, transgression, sin, guilt? How does she experience the passing of time? Does she appear to believe in an afterlife, an interventionist God, ghosts, fate, predestination? Does she demonstrate a belief that character is learned? Is she concerned with the existential? You learn most if the object belongs to someone else. Watch the vase, watch the girl, and you will know all these things. And you will find out if she loves you. We looked at the porcelain shards, then out through the rain-speckled window. The gate said West Woods. She was the first girl I'd dated whose house had no number. Thank you. That's from a set of stories when I was writing flash fiction. I got obsessed with writing everything at exactly 150 words. So that's 150 words, and the whole of Sawn Off Tales is I think there's 70 stories at 150 words, something like that. So it was just I don't know what it was. I just got so if something was 151, I had to get rid of one. If it was 149, it was no good. So everything was dead on. Here's another one of that length. Leonard was famous for his skilled curation of Moss-orama, a touring exhibition of moss from Darwin's collection. He was so obsessed with Moss-orama, he would pose as a visitor and ask invigilators how it was doing. They would laugh and say, well, to be honest, we had high hopes, but it seems nobody is excited by moss anymore. Leonard is 60 now, fat, diabetic, and addicted to flu strength paracetamol. He has no job, owns no property, and is well out of the moss world. Categorizing moss, he says, is a young man's game. Why doesn't he have a woman? He is funny, has teeth, hair, and a motorbike, and is an expert on 1930s science fiction and moss. But who ever met a girl in the sci-fi section of a bookshop or at a moss exhibition? Sometimes you have to accept that no one will ever love you. Thank you. And that's Uncle Leonard, that's called. This next one's from a little book I had published called Whale. And this was a theatre company who land an artificial whale on a beach. I think they've done it in the States and Canada actually. And then they pretend it's real. And I was like writer in residence. And so I hung around this dead whale and wrote various bits of fiction, which we kind of guerrilla leafleted around the town. And this is one of the stories I wrote about the whale. Um, a metaphor appeared in our town, and everyone wanted to talk about it. People are more comfortable talking about signs, symbols, and metaphors than they are about real things. So it turned out that the metaphor appearing in our town was a very good thing for our mental health. It opened people up to talk about the real things they were worried about. And also, it encouraged everyone to communicate with each other for the first time in years, especially since the pandemic. Eye contact became more frequent, as did touching, speaking, singing, crying, laughing, and one evening, even dancing. People now had something to talk about that wasn't themselves and wasn't the town. It was the whale. Everyone could talk about the whale and what it meant to them. The whale on the beach could be your problem or your saving grace. It could be the physical manifestation of your love for someone. It could be the anger boiling up inside or the sadness and regret you've buried for years. It could be your loneliness, enormous and solid and unignorable, lying there massive on the beach for everyone to see. I watched them all, everyone in the town, as they used this giant metaphor as a key to unlock their feelings. But I didn't know how to join in and use it myself. I never really learned how to understand metaphors. I once went to Brooks's music shop and tried to buy a guitar that was heartsick, frayed, and desperate, but they only had normal guitars. The man in the shop said the emotions I described would have to come from me, not the guitar. So it was back to the drawing board. Later, when I went down to the beach again, the whale was still there, but everyone else had gone. Maybe that meant something, but I didn't know what. So that's a little whale story. I'll do a couple from, before I finish, I'll do a couple from Lakes of Titan, which is this prose poetry experimental thing, which is out on Above Ground Press now. What I did to write these is I had quite a long train journey one day from Manchester, UK to Nottingham, which is in the East Midlands of the UK. And I just wrote everything that I noticed on the way there and everything I noticed on the way back. I wrote down everything about what I'd been up to when I was in Nottingham, tons of notes, and got all these notes together and just wrote a load of stuff only based on this one day. So this is some of those. Um, I'll read this one first. I had some time to kill before my train back to Manchester, so I decided to do a little bit of shoplifting, as I was in short supply of easy to thieve items, razor blades, paisley scarves, tins of anchovies, the sort of things a gentleman would steal, men who have jobs like rare book dealer or wine merchant, or who write mischievous crossword clues about cravats. I had stuffed a tin of anchovies down my trousers and was just on my way out of the shop when I was stopped in my tracks by the vision of my mother standing by the door, staring at me accusingly. My mother had died 4 years earlier and had lived in West Cumbria, a long way from Nottingham. Even if she had climbed out of her grave, she would have struggled to get to Nottingham, which would require a southern bound train and then an eastbound one, probably a change at Carlisle and another at Manchester. And for someone who was already dead, I'm not sure that would be doable. My conscience pricked by these maternal thoughts, I returned the anchovies and went back towards the exit. But again, I saw my mother by the door. It was then I realized it was a cardboard cutout with an image of my mother projected onto it. I thought about the sticky gingerbread she used to make, which I would hide down the back of the storage heater in my bedroom. So thank you. I didn't really do any shoplifting when I was in Nottingham, but just in case. But the idea came to me there. And this is the last one I'll do. Um, Near the rewilded shopping centre, a man called Frank Robinson was sitting on a folding stool of the type fishermen use. He had a rubber-headed mallet with which he played an indecipherable tune on a colourful toy xylophone, or metallophone to be precise, while members of the public took turns to throw axes over his head and into the shop behind him, where, if they were thrown correctly, they ended up stuck in the wall. This was entirely safe, and the shop owner had a framed certificate saying so. It was a popular activity for stag nights. Frank Robinson plinked and plonked, and the axes flew through the air with a whoosh, some of them missing and landing on the floor. Eventually, one ended up buried in the head of the poor xylophone man. But he didn't die, he just carried on. Someone said he looked like a living Halloween costume with the hatchet sticking out of his skull and the blood dripping down his face. And he said, yes, I saved a bit of money there. I never like to pay through the nose for fancy dress. Then he fainted and was taken to hospital. Thank you. So thanks everyone for listening to those little pieces. And thanks Heidi for having me. I look forward to hearing everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. That was wonderful. I mean, I loved the tossing a breakable object and then how that really unwound everything about about her. And that was so cool. And so the sawn off tales, they're all the 150 words.
All 150. Yeah, that one
Okay.
and more. So they're yeah, Sawn Off Tales is that one which you can buy on Amazon in the States, and more Sawn Off Tales with a bear on the front. There you go.
That is really great. And then you have a moss meeting a girl at a moss fair. Um, and I mean, I love the whale too. That was so wonderful. People are more comfortable talking about metaphors, and it's very good for our mental health. I mean, that was just so great. And the Lakes of Titan brought us into this, yeah, this slower pace of things, but also very interesting. So thank you so much. And I also appreciate your kind words about my stories. Thank you so much for giving me that blurb. I really appreciate it. Our next reader is also a virtuoso. Barbara Black has published two multi-award-winning collections of short fiction, Music from a Strange Planet from 2021 and Little Fortified Stories from 2024. The winner of the 24th Annual Writers Union of Canada Short Prose Competition, Black has also been longlisted twice for the Commonwealth Short Story Prize, was the 2022 Adult Fiction winner in the International Wishing Shelf Book Awards, and recently Grand Prize winner in the International 2025 Islands Book Awards. So she's been traveling like crazy too, it sounds like. Her work has appeared in many national and international publications and anthologies, including the Cincinnati Review, Geist, the Hong Kong Review, and the Plaza Prizes International Literary Competition Anthology 1. As a flash fiction writer, Black was shortlisted for the 2023 Edinburgh Flash Fiction Award and won first prize in the International Plaza Prizes microfiction contest and second in flash fiction. Black lives in Victoria, BC, where she gardens and rides the twisties on her trusty Triumph motorcycle. So I would say, I mean, I've read Little Fortified Stories, and I think they are brilliant pieces that illuminate cascades of life in such a compact space. So I think it's wondrous to behold. So welcome, Barbara.
Thanks, Heidi, and thanks for the stories and your reading, David. That was great. Um, well, it's nice to be here celebrating Heidi Kasa's wonderful new book, The Beginners. It is a great collection, just intriguing and startling stories. And I wish you all the best as you launch yourself out into the literary world. I am going to read from my latest book, which is Little Fortified Stories. Something stuck in my throat. It's 97 flash fictions that somehow emerged from my brain and ended up on paper. And I'm going to read a flash story first. And I think I'm going to sneak in just thought of this, a tiny little story and end with a prose poem. But before I do that, I'd like to tell you how this book began. And it started in Lisbon, and I was at a writing workshop studying what was then called sudden fiction, which I think now is kind of flash fiction. And on a break, I went to the port center to sample ports, and also known as fortified wine. And my first sip of that first port, I I sensed that there was a story and a character in there, and in the qualities of that drink. And so I immediately got my book and wrote them down, wrote my story down. It was very compact, and I loved it. And so I continued doing it and continued drinking some port at the same time, of course. And that was the beginning of Little Fortified Stories. And later I added other sections that were not based on alcoholic spirits, and I'll be reading from a few of those. So the flash story I'm going to read is from the section of the book called Visual Provocations. And all the stories in that section are inspired by a piece of art. And as you all maybe probably know, but maybe you don't, it's called ekphrastic writing, which I just adore, and I adore art too. And it's where you use a visual prompt. It can be, art, it can be painting, sculpture, film, anything that's visual art, just to, have a springboard off for a story. And in this case, the art that I used is by one of the Canadian group of 7 painters. I don't know if anyone else outside of Canada knows about them, and the painter is A.J. Casson, and his painting is of this tiny isolated island in the midst of the very, very vast Lake Superior. And I'm going to read it now, and it is called Where a Dark Heart Burns. I move forward, facing backward. Water drips from the oar tip. There are those of us for whom islands are exile. For others, they're an oasis from humanity, where one can occupy oneself in seclusion. Sometimes you have to go dead to be alive again, as she put it, sequestering on this little island in an old shack built by an artist. In the distance, a woodpecker rams a tree with its beak. Fish ribbon past under the lake's surface. They have names like walleye and smallmouth, which imply something about why she wants to be here, to look slant, to speak little. She's dressed in a white sackcloth, shapeless. We step around the poison oak. An outdoor table is set for 3. Company coming, love? I say. She slits her eyes at me. This is Effie, a sedge-woven thing sitting there on a cedar stump chair. Moss hair, its eyes, ghostly snowberries. Twig hands splayed as if stuck in supplication. A straw child. Our daughter, she says, crazy hair exploding from her head. I never knew my wife could carve or weave. No words form in my mouth. Teacups filled, we eat white cake in silence. Are you coming home at some point? I ask. You mean going home? Well, either. We're burning Effie first tonight. Her soul seems to catch fire too, like old man's beard near a lit match. And when at the ashes stage she cries, I cry too. From the northern reaches of the lake, a loon pulls down the moon with its three-pitch lament. I can no longer look to her to see myself, and yet I love her more now than before. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to slip a little weensy little story, a workshop with Meg Pocrast. David, you might know about her. I don't know. Lives in Scotland. And oops, there we go. It was a challenge to write a 50-word story, and this is from my section about the section called whiskey. So I do have other I have gin, other liquid spirits, and I'm gonna read it to you. The title is On the Edges of Where We Live Lurk the Untitled Masterpieces of Our Dreams. There is a fever, they say, that turns your thoughts into flowers. Is this what I have? I thought, shedding pink roses. I walk the streets and people think I'm a wedding, sidewalk awash with violets. O voice of dreams and the door to implausibility, have I married myself? Okay, that was fun. And now, thank you. So the just giving you an idea of another type of prompt that I like writing with is writing from music. And I just adore this as well. I don't listen to music that has words in English, though. If it's words I can't understand, it's fine. And so the next story, it's really a prose poem. It's the last page of the book, and it's in the last section called Fado Songs. And if you don't know, Fado originates from Portugal, and it's a super emotional kind of singing, usually with a singer and a guitarist, at least, or a larger group. And it is very passionate, full of nostalgia and loss and grief and love. It's really powerful stuff. So um, after Lisbon, I listened to a lot of Fado songs, and I was trying to kind of like with the port, it was trying to find what the story was living within the notes of that piece, the pitches and phrases. And so here it is, Fado 10. Love is a long, slow cigarette we feed on till the ashes drop. Your lips on mine, my lips on yours, we inhale each other as if the other were a vice. I would kiss even your embers if that's all that was left, if it meant that in the end you would never be extinguished. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Barbara. It's such a pleasure to have you. I really appreciate it. I mean, I love your work. I think that you have this obviously this poetic sensibility, but but I love how concrete your stuff is, but then also brings us along in these other, directions and journeys. I mean, you
Thank
have so many great lines in here, right? Like the islands are exile for some people, but then occupy oneself in seclusion. I mean, the straw child,
you.
ashes stage, right? I mean, so many. We inhaled each other as if we were a vice. So I really appreciate you. Thank you for your kind words on my book. Um, and thank you for being here.
Thanks.
The the next reader also brings on the magic. Leticia Urieta, she, her, hers, is a Tejana writer from Austin, Texas, even though right now she's in Vermont. A little cold in Vermont, but she works as a teaching artist and freelance writer and editor. She is a graduate of Agnes Scott College, and holds an MFA in fiction writing from Texas State University. Her chapbook, The Monster, is out now from Libro Mobile Press. Her hybrid collection, Las Criaturas, thank you for holding it up, was published in 2021 by Flower Song Press and was a finalist for the Sergio Troncoso Award for Best First Book of Fiction 2022 from the Texas Institute of Letters. Her poetry chapbook, Offerings to a Tumbled Temple, was published in 2025 from Purple Ink Press, and her dark fiction collection, The Remedy is the Disease, is forthcoming in spring 2026 from Undertaker Books. So I don't have Offerings to a Tumbled Temple yet, but I did order it. So I'm looking forward to that. And I love Las Criaturas, as you know, for its blend of poetry and prose and how I think it illuminates what's really monstrous, humans' mistreatment of each other. So thank you very much for your work and welcome, Leticia.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I really appreciate you inviting me to read with you and celebrate your new collection. I'm really excited to read it. I'm like, when I'm in town in March, we gotta get coffee, and then you have to give me a signed copy. So I'm gonna hold you to that. Um, and yeah, thank you so much to Britta and Barbara and David. It's really lovely to hear your words as well. I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna do a little bit of poetry and prose today. I think I'm gonna read one flash piece from my collection, Las Criaturas, that came out in 2021. It was kind of my first foray into hybrid poetry, prose writing, and kind of delving into a little bit of speculative fiction, horror, which I am realizing is now kind of my preferred forms of storytelling in a lot of ways. That's where a lot of my work is going now. And this one feels like it kind of connects to some of the poems I'm going to read from my new collection. So this one is called Sick Woman Travels to Distant Lands. And just a content warning for some light body horror, not super graphic body horror. You peel back the curtain. A swath of sunlight rides into the room, and you remember what it was to step into the warmth of the sun without cringing, without fear of the flare across your eyes and then the pain. You've been in bed for 2 days. There is the hunger that rumbles through your body, the need to feed yourself, but then the churning inside your stomach starts and makes your body want to get rid of everything and become a blank slate. The world darkened when the virus spread. When you look outside, there are fewer kids playing in the street. People in masks rush by to get into their homes like they're re-entering a clean zone. Their homes now the safest places to be. But you've been home. Home is a sanctuary when the body is not, but even then it can become an island impossible to swim away from when your pain is a contagion people don't want to see. On the night you come to me, it snows for the first time after 100 years. A portal opens. We meet on the snowy field at midnight, the winter moon full casting light across the glistening whiteness. You walked here barefoot, peeling off your clothes until you arrived naked and cool in the crisp air. You didn't recognize me at first, but with time you will. First, you bow in front of me on your knees, arms bent forward and head down so your frizzy hair sweeps the snow, leaving traces. When I bow my head to you, you know that you can climb aboard my brown, hard shell, and lay across it like a starfish stuck to a rock. Your spine conforms to the curves of my shell. Your skin melts, becomes hot and sticky against me as we become one. All that we see are the bare tips of tree limbs and that full solstice moon watching us move slowly across the snow, back towards the portal to my world. Your body has melded so seamlessly with my shell that you feel to me like a second spine, a layer of protection from the monsters of your world who would cage me or tear my shell from the rest of my body and consume me. This is why you don't scream as we cross the threshold, even as your naked skin turns from translucent white to red and sloughs off of you in crisp layers that burst like a pollen bomb. Your body is becoming something entirely different. I move slowly to take you away from yourself, back to my home where pain is a song, a story from another world. Thank you. If anyone is watching Welcome to Derry right now, I have a fraught relationship with Stephen King. I think we all should be. We should be critical of Stephen King. But if you're writing horror, dark fiction, there's some influences of that work. So I just reread it around that time, and clearly there was some influence there. Okay, I'm going to read just a couple of poems from my new collection, Offerings to a Tumble Temple. And find that from Purple Ink Press. A lot of my writing in the last few years, and that story, I wrote in 2020, I believe, at the beginning of the pandemic. And a lot of my writing in the last few years has been about navigating relationships to the body when you are chronically ill and disabled, and also like relationships to intergenerational trauma, chronic pain, but also like where we find kinship with one another, especially if you have an understanding of what it means to kind of be at war with your body, and how you find that peace. And so I'm going to read just a few poems about that. This is called The Graveyard of Good Health. Here is the dirt where I am born, and here is the hole where I step into the moonlight beyond the graveyard of good health, where I let my comforts die and grow into pale roses that bloom and the stars glow, that cry for color and a kiss from the sun's honey spit. There's moon energy in my face and in my eyes and in my teeth and in my blood, and if I planted my still bloody baby teeth in the graveyard of good health, they would sprout dewy tears from my mother when I throw out the parts of me no longer useful, but that she loved. A grave for my teeth, a grave for a still, calm heart, a grave for nerves free from pain, a grave from blood that knew when to flow and when to clot, that did not rot in the hollowed passages and infect the body with a sense of longing for a day when pain is a wave receding. It crashes inside the seawall, spills over and around the sides. The moon controls my tides. A grave for my need, a grave for letting it get the better of me. I lie on hollowed ground, spread out in starfish pose, ready to sink through the grass and acidic graveyard soil to get to all the parts of me buried, eager to see what can grow. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll read, I think, two more. I don't want to beleaguer too long. Let's see. This is a poem, just a content warning, is about pregnancy loss. So protect your energy as needed. And this was inspired by another poet friend of mine, Kim Sousa, who is a Brazilian poet. And it's called Beating Heart. This body is an insurmountable debt, the balance too big to ever pay back. Is that why I've never seen a heartbeat? The third time my body has swollen, begun to prepare a way, my heart is a live wire unprotected from its own sweet corrosive hope. At the 7-week ultrasound, I wait for this tool of divination to reveal the fetal movement, where cells amass in incomplete possibilities. And when the doctor says there is no growth, the almost baby frozen in time, was that the body's bill come due? After 2 other losses, I knew to expect the worst of a life never. If life begins at conception, is this baby the living dead, a miracle soon to be flushed from my body? If life begins at the first biblical breath, I put the pregnancy test next to the other two before to keepsake my body's best efforts to make fertile a fragile, clinging, wanting womb. Fuck Dr. Strange. A person pregnant is a better interdimensional traveler in just one body, able to imagine infinite possibilities they may never touch, no certain futures, a tidal of blood, the body cut open, a cry, a breath, are all equally possible impossibilities. Weeks later, and I burn with missing someone I never got to meet. Though relief lives there too, that I didn't let my love for this almost baby grow past its own 7 weeks. What a beautiful lie. That my body can be mine alone again. But little one, I was ready to give it up, to be fed and flayed on, open to your love, to let my body grow past its own limits. There are no guarantees we would both make it out alive. I wonder, walking back to my car from the clinic, sweating through the 45th day of 105 degrees without rain, in a tight mask, leaving the receptionist who wore her mask below her nose in a mockery of care. How was I ever to keep you alive on this side? Being pregnant is to inhabit the most radical hope that somehow this will be different, that you could protect your baby with only your fearsome, bloody love, like throwing stones in the raging fire of your own heart. Thank you. Okay. I like to end this one because it's the last poem in the collection, and also because it was inspired by all of the disabled kinships and friendships I have with other loved ones, including Liz, who is here today, and folks who have really helped me understand how we can care for one another in what seems like the most dire of times, right? Whether it's a personal dire time, but also like collectively, which is something I wish we were continuing to learn better. But anyway, this is called Comorbidly Yours. You don't ask, have you tried ... We know better. Instead, dump your bag out on the table. Out spills hand sanitizer, face masks and a rainbow array, a HEPA filter, a beacon of purple UV light, hand warmers for this chilly day, nasal sprays. Take one, I have extra. Oils for calming, oils for dry skin, oils for the joints, a magical exchange of remedies from the Whisper Network in the land of the ill. Medical blue-gloved hands come disembodied from a room that won't meet your eyes, but wants you to slip that mask down just to see your grimace. Care comes from the hands of beloved co-conspirators bringing tea to the table. Being outside with you, sweating or chilled, is a miracle. You always send me on my way with gifts, stickers you made yourself, a handful of figs from your yard, blue bonnets to plant early and wait. We won't see them grow for another year or two, but everything planted takes root, breathing hard under the hot, packed earth. Life happens here, the whispers that grow louder each time we press our smiles against each other's heart windows. They're reserved, conserved for those who can feel them even behind the mask. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you so much, Heidi, for including me in this wonderful reading.
Thank you so much, Leticia. I mean, so many brilliant lines, of course. Makes your body want to get rid of everything and become a blank slate. When your pain is a contagion, they don't want to see. Pain is a song. I mean, I just, even when you were discussing feeling at war with your body and how to get peace from that, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of us here who can really relate to this. Um, in various chronic illness stuff, but just also the the way of living right now, and wishing, yeah, we were learning better from this. Um, this body is an insurmountable debt to let my body grow past its own limits. And I mean, I love what you said about Doctor Strange and a person pregnant as a time traveler. And I just love it when people speak about the body really honestly. And I've always appreciated that from you. And so thank you for this. Um, our next reader also kind of draws us into fine subtleties of emotion, and enabling us to all feel a little more. Britta Jensen's most recent novel, Orphan Pods, received enthusiastic praise from Publishers Weekly. The story draws on familiar dystopian elements of oppressive regimes and youth-led resistance, but it transcends them through honesty and layered characterization. This is not just a dystopia. It's a reflection on what freedom truly means and what one must sacrifice to attain it. Her debut novel, Eloya Born, won the 2019 Writers League of Texas YA Discovery Prize. Subsequent publications include Hirana's War, Ghosts of Yokosuka, and various short stories. Her stories explore themes of persevering through disability, found family, and the intersection of love and various cultures on new worlds. For the past 22 years, she has taught creative writing and edited books and won several awards for her teaching. Friends often refer to her as a polyglot, a product of living 22 years overseas in Japan, South Korea, and Germany before settling in Austin, Texas, with her awesome caporista husband and two cats. You may have to correct me on that pronunciation. I'm sorry. She loves coaching authors and editing books with the writing consultancy and Yellowbird Editors. She's currently working hard on Bones of Our Ancestors, the sequel to Orphan Pods. And yes, I have Ghosts of Yokosuka here and Orphan Pods, which I was thankful enough to get a read on the really early copy. So thank you so much and welcome, Brita.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And thanks everyone who has already read. I was writing down notes of phrases that I loved from each of your pieces. And I also was lucky to read the early version of The Beginners. And so I'm excited for it to come out. And it's wonderful to be here and to be inspired by everyone who is here. Ghost of Yokosuka is set in my hometown in Yokosuka, Japan, which is south of Tokyo. And in this story, I've taken a young woman who is a combination of all of the major ethnicities that I grew up with, and putting in some of those experiences of growing up in kind of an undefined cultural context with a kind of larger hegemonic culture kind of oppressing anyone who doesn't kind of adhere to that mold, especially in like 1980s Japan. So we start our story a little bit further in. I'm going to read from a section where Annabelle has met her first human friend. And so 14-year-old Annabelle's only friends are ghosts. To make matters worse, her Japanese birth father left her family 2 years ago, and her mother has recently remarried an American sailor. So her already difficult life on the back streets of 1980s Yokosuka, Japan has gotten a lot more complicated as she tries to navigate the social strata between the Filipino, American, and Japanese cultures on the small naval base. When we arrived into the Kamakura main station, groups of teens in indigo hakama passed by carrying golden shrines on wooden pegs. A throng followed, calling out chants while Ika barbecue wafted over us, and my stomach prickled with hunger. "What's that for?" Jake asked, pointing at the teens. "To honor their dead ancestors. It's Obon season. Kamakura is one of the spiritual centers of this area. At least, that's what my dad used to say before he left us." Koji and Widow reappeared and hovered on either side of me. "Go away," I whispered, and those are her ghost friends. How could I get to know him with them around? "No chance," Widow said, a soft smile playing on her lips, a glow in her black eyes. Jake mounted his bike, waiting for me. It was the first time I wanted my ghosts to truly disappear. They had been my pseudo-protectors from bullies, and yet in a moment like this, they felt like a detractor from a semi-normal outing. I climbed on the bike pegs, willing myself to ignore my ghosts, as we zipped past the Enodin streetcar, hissing along its narrow tracks. The conductor called out the stops in a reedy voice. Mamanaku, Enoshima desu. Why does everyone talk through their noses here? Jake asked. I guess it's like talking in our throats in English, I replied. I hadn't noticed anything nasal about Japanese until he pointed it out. It was a language, like English, I'd spoken my whole life. I'd always assumed a higher pitched voice in Japanese meant you were friendlier. I had often used this friendly voice to get my mom out of scrapes when she took over my dad's bar. My father had always spoken Japanese in a low-throated voice that had frightened me, especially in rare moments when he corrected my speech. Can't speak like a half-breed. Already have a strike against you. He'd point at my light eyes like he wasn't part of the problem. I didn't want to think about my dad. I held on tighter to Jake's shoulder as he picked up speed. The stretch of beach near Enoshima had a konbini with the freshest snacks. I bought us a few onigiri and melon drinks there. The late afternoon sun seemed less oppressive when we came out of the freezing store. Ahead of us, a boulder stuck out of the ocean with an orange torii gate on top of it. Enoshima jetted out from the beach like a tiny whale with a thin tongue connecting it to the mainland. I searched the low tide in the distance to find something to say. We can leave your bike here by the rocks. We took off our shoes, the warm sand cushioning our feet until we found a spot that was free of debris and food litter. I dug out an onigiri with tuna in the middle and handed the meat one to Jake, the plastic covering already sweating in the late afternoon heat. He peeled off the outer wrapping and instead of cringing over eating seaweed, he ate all of it. I didn't normally expect that he would eat Japanese food so naturally. Usually my American classmates disliked seaweed. I looked out to the sea, trying to act like it was normal for me to take cute boys I didn't know to the beach. I had to relax. That was why I brought him here. Everyone liked the ocean. They had to. The roar of it against the waves meant I wouldn't have to provide conversation. There was enough to look at, to do. This was where I took Rocky when I needed a day away from the house and an easy place to babysit him. Koji and Widow walked along the beach, conversing noisily in English. They sounded so stupid, pretending to have this deep conversation and stopping periodically to see if I was watching them. They were worse than Rocky, trying to act like he wasn't up to something. My mom would have loved it here, Jake said, laying back on his elbows and stretching out his feet in the warm sand. What happened to her? I felt like it was better to know instead of dancing around it. I kept my gaze trained on the small waves and listless surfers past the breakers. Cancer. It was really fast. My dad was still out to sea, so I had to come here and stay with his division buddy's family. I'm sorry. It must be so taihen, hard, I said. Would my life with my family have been better if my birth father died instead of disappearing? I think everybody's family has something, like your brother. He's funny, but I bet he's a handful, Jake said. Nothing is easy with him. I watched Jake's face to gauge whether to keep talking. He didn't look away. Rocky used to go to a special school, except he kept getting lost on the train. My mom and I tried everything to help him get to school by himself. There, it was out. Would he feel differently about me now? His face didn't change, his eyes meeting mine. His green irises picked up the glints of the afternoon sun, reflecting yellow flecks. My vision settled lower on his mouth, then roved back to his steady gaze. So much eye contact felt uncomfortable, and I had to look away. Isn't he too young to take on the train? He asked. It's normal for young kids here. Rocky can take the train by himself when he wants to get somewhere. But instead, on school days, he'd go fishing or swimming instead. Before we moved to the base, an old man brought him to the police station. Koji dove into the water ahead, breaking my concentration. What did your mom do? I lied and said my mom was in the hospital. I had to pick him up from the police station. She shouldn't have let you do that, Jake leaned in, his face clouding. She can't really speak Japanese, at least not. I couldn't tell him about the bar and how her vocabulary extended as far as telling people prices and giving them change. A little small talk here and there, some memorized jokes. Before my birth father left, I hadn't noticed her pidgin Japanese. I suppose because he was usually there, drinking with his buddies, making deals my mom didn't understand. As long as she kept acting like the doll that my father thought he owned, everything was daijobu, okay. Jake sat there for a while, neither of us speaking, a weight in both of us we didn't have the words for. Widow floated above the water, her kimono changing from a light pink back to her everyday light gray. She sang a low tune. Tsuki ga deta deta, tsuki ga ta yoi yoi. And Jake craned his head. Is someone singing nearby? I didn't know what to say. There was no way anyone could hear them. At least, I hadn't experienced that for years. And it took everything Widow Koji and one of their friends did to make an appearance at an opportune time at the schoolgirls' bathroom years ago. It was best to go along with him, acknowledge there was music, but not tell him about them. He'd freak out for sure. Yeah, somewhere. You want to go swimming? We don't have swimsuits. He looked puzzled. Doesn't matter. It was nearly sunset and the beach was fairly empty. I quickly threw my dress over my head, keeping my slip on, and waded into the soupy water, which calmed my nerves. Jake peeled off his red t-shirt and dove into the water after me. A purple-blue mass glowed below the surface. Jellyfish blimped about a few meters beyond where Jake swam. What are those? He asked. Jellyfish, don't worry. The sting feels like a tiny rubber band. Thank you.
Thank you, Britta. And that story with the ghosts and everything, the tension between what helps you and what you must let go of, when you're a teenager and you're growing. I mean, I just, yeah, really identified with that. And just in general, the people in between and outside cultures that you write about, but then the humanity of everyone, how you kind of illuminate the outsiders in these kind of subtle ways. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words from my book too. I appreciate it. Um, Many of you know about me, but here's a bit if you don't. We're here to celebrate this chapbook of flash fiction, but I'm also the author of the poetry collection, The Bullet Takes Forever, which recently came out on Mouthfeel Press, and the fiction chapbook split a few years back from Monday Night Press, and three handmade artist poetry books that have kind of fun textured papers. My work has won awards and has been published in many journals. I work as an editor in Austin, Texas. A little bit more about Digging Press. Digging Press seeks out works that challenge the status quo, push boundaries, and open new dialogues. Their creative director meticulously designs each book. They believe a book is not just a vessel for words, but a work of art. Their stunning designs ensure every book is not only a pleasure to read, but also a visual representation of the author's unique vision. I'm going to see if I can share the screen for the cover that Cynthia Alvarez designed. Let's see here. There we go. So that you can see how wonderful that is. Because I really appreciate the design. I think that she captured the mystical elements of some of the stories and the abstract nature of the fractals, touch on the traps of technology and experiences of grief in some of the stories as well. But I feel like there is a light, and so you can kind of see it behind the title there, a little bit of lightness. And I think it's when we understand our humanity better. So I'm also going to just read from, I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to read from one of the stories. Let's see here. Robot You. Robot You insists you have another piece of chocolate cake. You know she senses your stress and is trying to help, but you are still suspicious. She was programmed in a patriarchal society, and you wonder about her real motives. She's like you in a million ways. When the robots were installed in all homes, she looked like you, but didn't act like you. Over the last 10 years, she has learned her job well, observing and then mimicking small and large mannerisms, word choices, slang that changes with your friends and age, and mirroring your moods. Yet the moments when she does not match you are disproportionately jarring. Robot You tells you again to eat more cake, perhaps because she can't eat and wants you to eat for two. Even as she cajoles, she nods her head like a chicken, and you see the gesture magnified because you feel it in your own body. You know what it is to be you and not you, and more you than you at once. You eat the damn cake, but you don't enjoy it. She smiles, and you wonder if your teeth are as straight, as white. You've never noticed before how irritating that looks. Or maybe you're annoyed by her smug satisfaction at getting you to shove the chocolate cake down your throat. Tastes good, right? She says. You eye her. Is there something underneath the veneer of you that she's taken on? Where is the robot? Can you hear any machinery click, click, clicking its way through her skin, moving her long eyelashes? Not for the first time, you wonder what she looks like inside, at her core. Under the layers of pearl skin cut away, flapping bleeding veins and arteries into a blue glowing orb that silently sheds light, then turns black, on and off in the pattern of a heartbeat. Where is the beginning of her? Where do you begin? Do you also need to be oiled to run more efficiently? There's oil in cake. Maybe she thinks you need to be oiled with cake. You prefer butter cakes. Robot You should know that. She knows you love cake, love chocolate, love anything sweeter than a bland piece of white bread. It is her biggest weapon against you and your strongest weapon against yourself, and one you cannot use against her. Perhaps the men who designed her wanted to use food as a manipulation tactic. Is the only way to get under her skin to pry it with a screwdriver. You feel it might be gross, but you want to see what's inside her. You want to be assured she is not you. Or you want proof she's exactly you. You're not sure anymore. Would her computer chips be arranged in a pattern of a slice of chocolate cake? Maybe the scientists are laughing at how easy you are to predict. Good, right? Robot You asks again. Oh, it's delicious, you say. You wonder where you keep your screwdriver. I'm glad to help, she says, and puts a hand on your arm. They really nailed the temperature. The monitoring and replicating they've done. Amazing. Again, you wonder how much of her is made of you. Her hand on your arm doesn't feel human. Her hand doesn't feel like a robot either. It's the exact temperature as yours, adjusted moment by moment. Disconcerting. It feels like your arm has extended and doubled. Looking at Robot You is like walking around with a mirror right in front of you, always. They've gotten the age prediction model down, too. Age progressed photos combined with constant measurement of you and adjustments to her. So she's aging exactly as you are. You notice her forehead also creases so often it's turning into a wrinkle. Now you see your own aging twice. Typical that men would not think of repercussions of this. You can't look that long at yourself, but you can't look away. She senses your discomfort. Maybe we could watch a movie. One of your favorites, Robot You says. It's a reasonable suggestion. A little too reasonable. Your own mind had barely thought of it. Your mouth feels dry. Maybe you'll get up and get some. Here's milk, she says, and hands it to you. Robot You picks up the remote and starts flicking expertly through the options. The milk is very satisfying. Maybe this is not so bad after all. Maybe you're focusing on the wrong things, and you should just enjoy the opportunity you have. Maybe you're fixating. Robot You did tell you the other day that if you just relaxed, better things would open up for you. You think they input some psychology into her last update. You are of two minds about it. Maybe that could help? But now you feel watched. You are sure they took information from your doctor's file. Robot You has put a giant silver bowl of buttered popcorn in your lap. You didn't notice when she got to fix it. Are you feeling better now? She asks. She sits next to you on the couch and turns to stare at you. You can look directly into her hazel eyes because she is just as tall as you and sits in the same slouchy way. It's unnerving. But you love looking into her eyes because you know to look for the amber rings you've seen in your own eyes in the mirror, depending on how much green or brown or gray you wear. You could swear hers change the same way. A dark spot on her nose draws your eyes. Is that a pimple? You smile. She's uglier than you. I'm fine. I have to go to the bathroom, you say. She nods. It's the only place you can be away from her. You peer into the mirror, finding your eyes looking a bit flat. Brown. It means you're sad. You lean closer, trying to find the rings. You squint. Then you see less. You find you can't see your eyes anymore because suddenly you can only think of her eyes. They are better than yours. You can always find the rings in her eyes. And your nose has a pimple, too. Yuck. You go back to the couch and look straight ahead, pretending to watch the movie. You are still. You take in slow breaths. She eyes you. She knows you are thinking of how to get her back. She is you. Carol, you say. Her eyes narrow. Can you go out back and get me a screwdriver from the shed? You know my name is Natalie, she says. Like yours. You smile. You know her weakness. Robot you cannot be you and more you than you at once. So I'm going to post the links in the chat for everybody to watch. Let's see here. And then to check them out. And I just wanted to say quickly a couple things. Um, because I saw Jesse come in and Digging Press. Thank you so much. I had said a huge thank you to you for choosing my manuscript and guiding me through this process. It's been so wonderful. I love your editing and it has really taught me a lot of things about my own writing, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. And then also for the beautiful book. It's wonderful. And thank you very much for spending this time online with us. Thank you so much to the readers, and a brief thank you to Simon Kerr too, who connected me with Barbara and David and has really helped me. So thank you for the blurbs, and thank you so much. Have a good rest of your Saturday.
Thank you, Heidi.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you. Nice readings.
You too.
Good luck,
Thank you,
Heidi.
Heidi. It was lovely to meet you all.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
Bye. Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful, Heidi. That was great.
Oh, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very fun. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. All right, I think that didn't work. Let's see here.